What if I told you Norway isn't always more expensive than Canada? We hear about $20 burgers and $8 coffees, but is that the whole story? When you compare housing, groceries, transportation, and salaries, the truth is far more complicated and interesting. Stick around, because the real surprise isn't just the price of food, it's where your money truly goes. For many Canadians, the biggest shock in Norway isn't the scenery, it's the price tag. That first receipt makes every small purchase feel huge, but tourist prices don't tell the whole story. Locals know how to save, cook at home, and budget for real life. To truly compare, we'll look at everyday costs, like milk, rent, and paychecks, in both Norway and Canada. When Canadians land in Norway, it's not the fjords or Oslo's charm that hits first. It's the sticker shock. A simple lunch, a bottle of water. Suddenly, you've spent $50 without trying. Panic sets in. How does anyone afford to live here? But the tourist experience is only half the story. Locals live by different rules. To truly understand Norway's costs, we have to look much deeper. Judging a country's cost of living by the tourist experience is misleading. Tourists pay premiums for convenience, eating out, taxis, and pricey snacks, while residents shop smart, cook at home, and use monthly transit passes. Living somewhere is about routines and savings, not splurging. That's the real difference between the tourist trap and resident reality. Tourists focus on price tags and quick conversions, feeling sticker shock. Residents, though, see costs in the context of their income, taxes, and public services, like healthcare and education. Before comparing prices, remember, tourists and residents live with fundamentally different mindsets. The real cost of living is revealed at the grocery store. In Norway, food prices are still higher than in Canada, but the gap is shrinking as Canadian grocery bills rise. Feeding a family is now a challenge in both countries, just to different degrees. Some grocery items in Norway cause real sticker shock. Dairy, meat, and fresh produce are much pricier than in Canada, thanks to tariffs, climate, and import costs. But local fish and root vegetables can be affordable, especially if you adapt your diet to what's in season. Your grocery bill depends on the choices you make each time you shop. Norway's high import taxes on food protect local farmers, but make groceries expensive for shoppers. Unlike Canada, which allows more tariff-free imports, Norway prioritizes self-sufficiency, so imported items like cheese or tropical fruit cost much more. That's why Norwegian grocery receipts look the way they do. Norwegians don't just accept high food prices, they shop smart. Most choose discount stores like Rema 1000 or Kiwi, buy store brands, and plan meals around weekly sales. Some even cross the border to Sweden for cheaper goods. It's a masterclass in frugal living. Eating out in Norway is shockingly expensive. A simple burger or margarita pizza can cost $25 to $30. These are everyday prices, not fine dining. In Canada, the same meal is much cheaper. High wages, food costs, and rent in Norway all add up to that infamous $25 pizza. In Norway, dining out is expensive, and that shapes social life. Eating out is a rare treat, reserved for special occasions, not a casual habit. Most socializing happens at home, with home-cooked meals, making gatherings more personal and intimate. For newcomers, it's a big cultural shift. Here, price draws a clear line between everyday meals and celebrations. If there is one area that, honestly, perfectly illustrates the price chasm between Norway and Canada, it's the world of fast food. In Canada, fast food chains like McDonald's, Tim Hortons, and A&W are built on a model of speed, convenience, and affordability. They're the go-to option for a quick cheap meal on the road or a budget-friendly lunch. You can often get a full combo meal for around $10 to $12. This is the price point where fast food makes sense. It's supposed to be the most accessible and economical tier of the restaurant industry, a reliable option when time and money are tight. Now let's transport that expectation to Norway. Walking into a McDonald's in Oslo can be, well, a bewildering experience for a North American. You look up at the menu board and see a Big Mac combo meal priced at the equivalent of 15 to 18 Canadian dollars. A single cheeseburger can cost you $4. Suddenly, the entire concept of fast food as cheap food is turned on its head. The prices are so high that they start to overlap with what you might pay for a proper meal at a casual cafe in Canada. The value proposition becomes incredibly confusing. Why pay so much for mass-produced fast food? This price difference is a direct reflection of the same factors affecting all restaurants: high labor costs and expensive ingredients. Even global giants like McDonald's cannot escape the Norwegian economic reality. They have to pay their employees a fair wage, and those costs are passed directly to the consumer. As a result, fast food in Norway occupies a strange middle ground. It's not cheap enough to be the default budget option, but it also doesn't offer the quality or experience of a proper restaurant. It's simply fast food, not cheap food. This is perhaps the biggest single difference in the dining landscape between the two countries. Canada has a robust, affordable, and widely used fast food sector that provides a clear bottom tier of pricing for eating out. Norway largely lacks this. The floor for restaurant prices is simply much higher, with even the most basic options carrying a significant cost. For anyone accustomed to relying on fast food as a budget-friendly part of their food strategy, moving to Norway requires a complete rewiring of expectations. The $25 pizza and the $18 Big Mac are two sides of the same expensive coin. Housing is the biggest expense for most people, and rent can make or break your budget. Oslo is Norway's most expensive city, but rents there now rival those in Vancouver or Toronto. In fact, renting in Oslo can sometimes be cheaper than in Canada's priciest cities. A surprising twist in today's global housing crisis. What about buying a home? For many, the dream of homeownership is the ultimate financial goal. This is another area where the comparison between Norway and Canada reveals some fascinating and unexpected differences. In Canada's major cities, the dream of owning a home has become a nightmare for many. The price of a detached house in Toronto or Vancouver has long been in the millions of dollars. Even a simple two-bedroom condo can easily cost upwards of $700,000 to $900,000. These prices, combined with rising interest rates, have pushed homeownership out of reach for a huge segment of the population, even those with good incomes. Now let's look at Oslo. Buying an apartment in the Norwegian capital is also a very expensive proposition. Prices are high, and the market is competitive. However, the structure of the market and the financial system is quite different. The average price per square meter in central Oslo, while high, is often comparable to or even slightly lower than in central Vancouver. Furthermore, Norwegian banks have historically had strict lending requirements, which has helped to prevent the kind of speculative bubbles seen in some Canadian markets. The process is often seen as more stable and predictable. One of the biggest differences lies in the type of housing available. In cities like Oslo and Bergen, apartment living is the norm. The market is dominated by condos, known as leiligheter. The Canadian obsession with single-family detached homes with backyards is much less prevalent in urban Norway. This focus on denser, apartment-style living means that the entry point into the ownership market, while still high, is not the multi-million-dollar figure that dominates headlines in Toronto. It is a more accessible, albeit still challenging goal for a dual-income household. Moreover, Norway has specific policies aimed at helping first-time buyers. While Canada has programs like the First-Time Homebuyer Incentive, Norway's system, including favorable mortgage terms and a culture of saving for a down payment from a young age, creates a different pathway to ownership. The key takeaway is this: while buying a home in either country's major city is a massive financial undertaking, the Canadian market, particularly in Vancouver and Toronto, has arguably become more volatile and inaccessible for the average person than the market in Oslo. The dream of ownership feels, to many, a little more grounded in reality in Norway. So far, we've only talked about the big cities, but most of Norway and Canada do not look like Oslo or Toronto. What happens when you step outside the major metropolitan areas? This is where the housing cost narrative shifts dramatically, and often in Norway's favor. In Canada, moving to a smaller city or a suburban area can certainly reduce housing costs, but the commuter belt around cities like Toronto extends for hours. You often have to move very far away to see a truly significant drop in prices, and even then places like Hamilton or Kelowna have become incredibly expensive in their own right. In Norway, the price drop as you move away from Oslo is much more precipitous. Cities like Trondheim, Stavanger, and Bergen are vibrant and desirable places to live, yet their housing costs are substantially lower than in the capital. Renting a two-bedroom apartment in one of these second-tier cities could be 20 to 30% cheaper than in Oslo. If you move to a smaller town or a more rural area, the costs plummet. It is entirely possible to find affordable, high-quality housing in a beautiful Norwegian town for a fraction of the cost of living even in a mid-sized Canadian city. This affordability outside the capital is one of Norway's hidden secrets. The country has a strong commitment to maintaining viable communities all over its territory, not just in the south. This means that even smaller towns have excellent infrastructure, good schools, reliable internet, and access to services. You are not making a huge sacrifice in quality of life by choosing to live outside of Oslo. For many Norwegians, this is the preferred way of life, offering a better connection to nature and a stronger sense of community, all while being much easier on the wallet. This presents a stark choice for potential residents. In Canada, affordable housing often means moving to remote areas where job opportunities and services may be limited. The economic gravity of the major cities is immense. In Norway, because of a more decentralized economy and strong public investment, living in a smaller city or town is a much more attractive and viable option. For anyone whose job allows for remote work or who is not tied to a specific industry in the capital, Norway can offer a path to affordable housing that is increasingly difficult to find in many parts of Canada. Location truly changes everything. When we compare housing, we can't just look at the monthly rent or mortgage payment. There are other costs and cultural factors that play a huge role in the overall expense and experience. In Canada, renters are often responsible for paying for their own utilities, such as hydro, meaning electricity, and heat. These costs can fluctuate wildly, especially during cold winters, adding hundreds of dollars to a monthly budget. In many rental agreements, tenants may also be responsible for things like internet and tenant insurance, adding another layer of expenses to the base rent. In Norway, the rental market often operates a bit differently. It is very common for heating and hot water to be included in the monthly rent, especially in larger apartment buildings with centralized systems. This is known as firing og varmtvann inkludert. While the base rent might seem high, the inclusion of these major utility costs makes the monthly payment much more predictable and often more manageable than it first appears. Electricity for lights and appliances is usually separate, but having the biggest energy consumer, heating, covered provides significant peace of mind and financial stability, especially during the cold, dark winters. Another cultural difference lies in the standard of the properties. The general quality of housing in Norway is exceptionally high. Building codes are strict responses with a strong emphasis on insulation, energy efficiency, and durability to withstand the harsh climate. It is standard for apartments to have triple glazed windows, underfloor heating and bathrooms, and high-quality construction. While you can certainly find poorly maintained rentals, the baseline standard is generally higher than in many older Canadian rental stocks. You are often paying for a higher quality, more energy-efficient product. Finally, tenant rights are incredibly strong in Norway. The law provides significant protection against sudden evictions and unreasonable rent hikes. Standard lease agreements are typically 3 years long, providing a level of stability and security that is often absent in the month-to-month or one-year lease culture common in Canada. This security is a non-monetary value that is hard to quantify but has a massive impact on quality of life. Knowing you have a stable home for the medium term reduces stress and allows you to truly settle into a community, a factor that is an important part of the overall housing equation. Transportation is a major factor in the cost of living, and here, Canada and Norway take radically different paths. Canada is built for cars. Sprawling cities, suburbs, and daily life revolve around driving. For most Canadians, a car isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. This means car payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, and parking are unavoidable expenses for most households. Norway, by contrast, has invested in public transit. Buses, trams, trains, and ferries are prioritized, especially in cities. In Oslo, Bergen, and Trondheim, you can get almost anywhere without a car, thanks to a seamless, reliable network. For many Norwegians, a car is a choice, not a requirement, and their transportation budget is often just a monthly transit pass. This fundamental difference shapes the entire financial landscape for residents of both countries. If you want a car in Norway, brace yourself. Cars are far more expensive than in Canada. mainly due to hefty taxes. Norway slaps a massive purchase tax on new vehicles, especially big, polluting ones, making the same car cost up to twice as much as in Canada. Used cars stay expensive too, and gas prices are among the world's highest. Every aspect of car ownership, insurance, repairs, inspections, is designed to be costly, but there's a twist. Electric vehicles are exempt from most taxes, making a new Tesla or Polestar sometimes cheaper than a gas-powered VW Golf. This policy has made Norway a global leader in EV adoption, reshaping the car market. For most, though, owning a car in Norway is a luxury, not a necessity. The system nudges people toward public transit and greener choices. In Norway, going car-free is easy and affordable, especially in cities. A monthly transit pass, about $100 CAD, covers unlimited buses, trams, subways, and even some ferries. Compare that to the thousands Canadians spend annually on car ownership, and the savings are clear. Norwegian public transport is clean, frequent, and used by everyone, not just those who can't afford a car. Real-time apps and seamless transfers make it efficient and stress-free. Even rural areas are connected by reliable trains and buses. Unlike Canada, where inner-city options are limited, in Norway, a car-free lifestyle is practical and cost-effective. In Canada, it's often not an option. The result? Norwegians can spend far less on transportation than most Canadians. Taxes and healthcare are the invisible forces shaping your real cost of living. Norway's taxes are high and progressive, up to 40% for average earners, but they're transparent and fund a robust social safety net. Canada's taxes are lower for most, but vary by province and are supplemented by sales taxes on almost everything you buy. Norway's VAT is 25%, making goods feel expensive, but Canadians pay significant sales taxes too. The difference is where and how you pay. Norwegians see more taken from their paycheck. Canadians pay more at the register. Both systems fund public services, but the burden is distributed differently. The real question: what do you get for your taxes? That's where the two countries truly diverge. In Norway, high taxes buy you universal healthcare, capped out-of-pocket medical costs, free education through university, subsidized daycare, generous parental leave, and strong unemployment benefits. Your taxes are a prepayment for life's biggest expenses, giving you predictability and peace of mind. In Canada, public healthcare covers doctor and hospital visits, but not prescriptions, dental, or vision. Most people need private insurance for those. Canadians pay less tax up front, but face more out-of-pocket costs for health, education, and childcare. The Norwegian model prioritizes collective security. The Canadian model leaves more up to the individual. More money in your paycheck in Canada, but more private expenses to cover. In Norway, you pay more upfront, but get more in return. The trade-off is clear: predictability versus personal responsibility. None of this matters without looking at income. Norway boasts some of the world's highest wages, with median salaries 20–40% higher than Canada's in many fields. Strong unions and collective bargaining ensure even low-wage jobs pay a livable income. There's no official minimum wage, but the effective floor is high. In Canada, salaries vary more, and the minimum wage often lags behind the cost of living, especially in big cities. The key is purchasing power, how much you can buy with your income. That expensive Norwegian grocery bill might take up less of your paycheck than a cheaper Canadian one. When you factor in higher Norwegian salaries, the cost of living gap shrinks, or even reverses. It's not just about prices, but what your money can actually buy. Work-life balance in Norway isn't just a buzzword, it's a protected right. Offices empty by 4 p.m., overtime is rare, and everyone gets at least 5 weeks of paid vacation. In Canada, longer hours and less vacation are common, often at the expense of personal time. In Norway, your time is valued as much as your paycheck. Wealth isn't just about money. In Canada, you might have more disposable income and consumer choice. But in Norway, higher taxes fund public services, security, and time with family. Ultimately, it's a choice between individual freedom and collective well-being. Two different answers to what makes a good life. Is Norway really more expensive than Canada? On the surface, yes. Everyday prices are higher in Norway, But with higher salaries and public services covering health, education, and childcare, the true cost of living is more balanced than it seems. It's not just about price tags, but about what you get for your money. Choosing between Norway and Canada isn't about which is better, but what you value most: personal freedom and consumer choice, or collective security and work-life balance. Where would you rather live? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more honest comparisons.